Hi and welcome to Yucatan, today's video series featuring the unique homes and neighborhoods of Merida, Yucatan. I'm Keith Heitke, a senior sales agent with Mexico International. Today we ventured just 10 little miles south of the bustling main square of Merida. And we're here south of the city and we're at Hacienda Santa Cruz. It's one of the beautiful haciendas that's all over the peninsula here. Let's go take a look. This Hacienda Santa Cruz is a great example of the way the haciendas are being reused nowadays, because originally these would have been a place, this was a factory basically, that was really, really busy here all the time. They were doing henequen, they were processing henequen, and there were hundreds of people around here. The little village just behind here, these were all people that lived here in order to work at this hacienda. Today, it's tranquil, it's quiet, it's beautiful, it's so relaxing, but this is a complete reuse of the hacienda. And what we're going to see here is we'll walk through some of the buildings. They're all the typical buildings of a hacienda, and nowadays it makes a great compound. This is the famous henequen plant that made so many people so much money, and why we have all these beautiful haciendas, why we have even the big mansions downtown. This is what they processed, and this is a good example of how large this plant is. And we're going to see these all over the property today. The owners of this hacienda have used a lot of the items that were actually here and were used as equipment. They're now used as decorative items, including this cart here. The henequen was very heavy and it needed to be moved all over the grounds, and so they used these basically train tracks and little train cars to move them around. Another thing that they've done here is, we'll see this all over the hacienda, is there's big wheels and just objects that were used here, and now they're just decorative and they're beautiful. The owners of the haciendas, all of the haciendas, were basically Spanish royalty, and obviously they were very Catholic. So the number one thing that they would build in their haciendas, as well as their cities, was a chapel. The chapel was very important. This chapel, and basically the entire hacienda here at Santa Cruz, was built in the late 1700s, so it's been here quite a while. We had a large hurricane in 1988, and everybody hid out. Everybody from the little village here hid out in this church because it is so strongly built. It's very, very thick rock walls. So it actually ended up saving the lives of a lot of people during that dangerous hurricane. The chapel, even though it's so old, is still used to this day. You can see some of the features in here. It's very plain, which was typical. They would put pretty fancy artwork out, but actually the building itself is quite plain. The doors are carved in the front. These are very simple doors on the side. The ceiling also has its original beams up here, and then it's got the little bit of coving at the top. And there's not a lot of windows in here. There actually are no windows. There's only a couple of skylights. And the hacienda nowadays uses these for weddings. So it's great to have your whole party come here, stay at the hacienda, and you can have the wedding in here. So exiting the chapel, which again was basically the heart of the hacienda, we go to the machine room, which was another very important part of the hacienda. This is where it would all happen. This is where the heavy machinery was happening. Again, it's very tranquil here today, but nowadays this is a beautiful meeting room. So let's take a look. On the way from the chapel over to the machine room, you see this very large facade, and behind it you see a smokestack. All the haciendas had all these different ingredients. The smokestack was very important. It's also how you could find the hacienda from a distance as well. Nowadays, this is where the large kitchen is. They do catering for the restaurant and also for the rest of the rooms here. And then it goes over to the machine room just over here. Walking through these gates, these beautiful gates, you get the idea that these haciendas were really celebrating the fact that they were giving people so much work, and they really were very important. They wanted to bring all their beautiful Spanish architecture through here. This room actually originally had a roof on it, and they've made it a sort of a courtyard in between the two. So from here, we pass into this very large grand room. Again, it is sort of hard to imagine that all these rooms had heavy machinery just pumping out, and they were so loud. And nowadays, it's super tranquil in here, and they make a beautiful large room. There's actually two of them here. This one is the library up above, and then this is the largest room of the house. This is a gathering room for the entire hacienda. This large machine room, this is sort of the centerpiece of the house now. There is the chapel that we were in, but this is really the gathering place. This again is where this huge, heavy, loud machinery would have been. And the ceilings in here are almost 35 feet high. They're enormous. Downtown they were building houses that had 20-foot ceilings, but it really was much more decorative. It did allow the heat to rise, but in here they had to keep this machinery cool. So there's doors all over the place, there's windows up above. These never would have had glass in them originally. It really was to allow that airflow through. Today, this is the meeting room for the entire place. Everybody can fit in here. It's like a beautiful, almost like a ballroom, and a sort of meeting room for the entire hacienda. And there's land on both sides. It's absolutely beautiful, inside and out. Coming out of the machine room, we come to this great covered patio out here with this original rock floor. You'll see also this great colonnade that goes the whole length over here. This now leads to the kitchen and actually the restaurant. Just off from the covered restaurant that we just saw is this bar area. It's got a great floor in here. This is something that they added later. The floor was probably in ruins originally, but now we have this huge tall ceilings in here. This was just another room in the machine house, probably had other equipment. Today it's a beautiful bar. Leaving the really beautiful restaurant and bar area, we go to the first swimming pool. There's actually 2 swimming pools on the property. Originally what this was a water tank. There was water for the entire property that started here and went through the entire, all the grounds. The other thing that's here, that you'll notice up above my head, is the chimney. This was the main chimney for the machine house. Coming down from the first swimming pool area, you see this rock wall all the way around here. The property, even nowadays, still has 10 acres. It originally would have been hundreds of acres. But nowadays, each section is kind of sectioned off. They have horses in this area, and others are strictly for agriculture. Others are just basically just open space. From the first pool area, we actually end up back over here. This is over by the chapel, and this is a second swimming pool area. The new owners have also installed a great spa. Let's take a look. This huge second swimming pool that they have on the property here was, again, part of the irrigation system for the entire hacienda. This was a place where they were making things, and they needed to irrigate the entire land. So nowadays you can see through here. This is what's remaining of the irrigation system. While the original water tank was here and they turned it into a beautiful swimming pool, the owners of Hacienda Santa Cruz thought you might not be relaxed enough here at the hacienda, so they actually added a beautiful spa. And there's several treatment rooms here, and even just another area for relaxation. There's a great palapa roof here, a very traditional one, and it's just another great area of the hacienda. The way the haciendas were laid out was all individual buildings. So we have seen the chapel, we've seen the machine room, we saw the chimney, and there was the owner's quarters. There was also, which is usually quite grand, obviously, and then there was the caretaker's quarters and several different outbuildings. What that means for Hacienda Santa Cruz is they have different sections all the way through here, basically individual little buildings, and they're all different sizes. So you can have your whole family in one, or there's just a small area of others, and they're sort of scattered through the whole property. You really feel the privateness of all these different places because they're kind of scattered throughout the property. So everyone meets in the machine room, in the main room, but the houses are kind of scattered all over the place. And instead of having an anonymous number for the rooms, they all have their own name. Thanks for joining us at Hacienda Santa Cruz today. I'm Keith Heitke with Mexico International. We'll see you next time on Yucatan Today.